All right. Welcome into the Logan Ward podcast or the Logan Ward show. Whatever you want to call it. I think I have it on the thing there as podcast. New iteration, new vibe, new things. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the personal stuff towards the end of the podcast. I want to give y'all the sports that you are probably here to get. If you know me, you know I'm a sports person, so you are probably here to get sports. I'm going to give that to you, and then I can give you kind of the personal stuff, but I want to respect y'all's time with that, so if you want to wait till the end of the show, if you're still listening and still watching towards the end of the show, we'll talk a little bit about personal stuff then. All right. All right. I have a lot to get to. I have not talked about sports pretty much all football season, except to my wife, who is probably over it by now. So I have a lot to get to. We're already to the end of the college football season. The NFL season is wrapping up. Thanksgiving is this week. So we have a lot of games on Thursday. We have a game on Friday. Saturday is going to be a massive day in college football. And, of course, Sunday, your normal NFL slate. So a ton to get to here today on the first episode of the new iteration of the Logan Ward Show or the Logan Ward Podcast. Here we go. All right, I want to start with college football. I am recording this Tuesday during the day. The college football playoff rankings have not come out yet as we are recording this, so some of this is a little bit of speculation before those rankings come out tonight. By the time you're listening to this, they'll be out, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But there are some people on the internet and who have their own shows and who do sports media that are discussing Indiana about not being in the college football playoff and how they do not deserve to be in the college football playoff because it's the SEC bias, it's the Big Ten. Your strength of schedule is not very good versus an SEC team that has 4 losses or 3 losses. How do you weigh that? And I feel like I used to be part of that camp, and I'm not anymore. I got to the point where I'm like, we can't keep arguing about hypotheticals. We cannot keep arguing about a hypothetical SEC Big Ten matchup and who would win on a neutral site field. We can't keep having it. And when we do have it, when you actually do have a Big Ten versus SEC game in a bowl game, the Big Ten holds their own. And some of these teams, like in Indiana or Maryland, they hold their own against a Mississippi State and a Vanderbilt if they make bowl eligibility. They hold their own, and they've won a lot of games. And so I am tired of arguing that the SEC is a better conference. If you are an SEC team, you know that you're going to have to play Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas now. You know. You want part of the SEC money? You want to be a part of the conglomerate that is the SEC in terms of NIL deals, television deals. You want to be a part of that, then you're just going to have to be a part of it. You can't bicker and whine when you have a 3-loss team and you want them in over a 1-loss Indiana team. At some point, the games have to matter. And I know the argument with Indiana is people are going to say, well, they haven't played anybody. And they're 10-0. They were 10-0 going into this Ohio State game. They hadn't played anybody, so of course they're going to be 10-0. But there are a lot of teams in this league and in this sport that don't play anybody. For example, did you know that right now Indiana has a better strength of schedule than Notre Dame and Miami? So if Miami gets to the ACC championship game and they win the ACC, they're in, doesn't matter. But if they lose to SMU and that's a 2-loss Miami team, they're probably going to be out. And a 1-loss Indiana team should be in. Notre Dame has a terrible strength of record. They have the 78th hardest schedule. They're 78th. For example, Indiana's 51. Their 1 loss came to Northern Illinois earlier in the year. Yes, they have the win over Texas A&M. That's a decent win, But if A&M loses and they're 8-4, it's not as good. So I'm tired of this argument that the SEC's just by default better. If you're Indiana, you have these games on your schedule. You win the games. They have like 13 transfers that are starting on this team, on this Indiana team. What they have done is remarkable. And people are going to say, well, they went into the Horseshoe, they went into Columbus, and they got smoked. Yes, they did. But have you looked at the top 5 matchup games this season? Alabama was smoking Georgia in the first half. Georgia laid it on Texas on the road. The only really good top 5 matchup or top 10, top 25 matchup that we've had so far this year was Ohio State, Oregon. That's the only good game. Ohio State went on the road to Oregon, couldn't win. It's hard to win on the road in college football. And so Indiana going to Ohio State, a really good Ohio State team, the number 2 team in the country, going on the road and losing. Yes, they got a late touchdown that made the score look not as bad, but I thought they did okay. They had a couple of blunders. Obviously, special teams was a problem for Indiana, but just because they lost on the road to the number 2 team in the country, you don't think they should be in? They're not going to be a Big Ten champion, so they don't get the automatic bid. But I think that Indiana is firmly in to the college football playoff. And you can say, well, now no one's going to schedule anybody. Now you're not going to have any of these preseason, these pre-conference games, these Georgia-Clemson games like we had at the beginning of this season, this Notre Dame, Texas A&M. You're not going to have those. You're going to have them scheduling cupcakes and whatnot. I don't know if that's true, because I do think that with the expanded playoff and the 12-team playoff now, you can have 2 losses. In some years, I think you could have 3 losses and still get in. Heck, we are talking about an A&M team right now that has 3 losses. They have 3 losses on the year. They just lost on the road to Auburn. And guess what? If they beat Texas and they're 9-3, they have an opportunity to just win the conference outright. And if they win the conference at 10-3, you're in. You know what one of those losses are this year? Loss against Notre Dame. They went out and played them. I think that now that the playoff is extended to 12 teams, all you have to do is win your conference. And so, much like at the high school level, where some teams are like, you know what, we just need to get into the dance. We get a district championship. That's what we need. So we're going to go out and we're going to schedule a lot of hard teams to start the year, because we want to be prepared for that conference. We want to be prepared for the district games. I think that philosophy could still translate into college football. I don't think that those are exclusive. I don't think that you're going to have to schedule cupcakes just so that if you lose one conference game, you're done. You can lose one conference game. You probably can't lose 2. And if you lose 2 conference games, maybe you don't deserve to be in. So I think that right now, you're looking at Oregon, potentially the Big Ten champs. I think that them and Ohio State are going to play. I like Ohio State probably in a rematch. However, Oregon is a really good team, just haven't been able to do things offensively. I think it is actually underrated and undervalued what Oregon has done in year 1 of the Big Ten. I know they have a really good team, but you can take a look. You can take a look at the other teams in the Big Ten and say, okay, well, maybe this whole flying across country thing isn't working out for folks. Oregon right now, obviously, they are the top dog, but USC has not had a good year. UCLA has not had a good year. And this traveling stuff, man, it's hard. Going to and from Oregon to Minnesota every week, it's hard. Last week, Oregon squeaked away with the victory over Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a tough place to play. It's cold. The fans are crazy there. And so I'm actually impressed with Oregon, what they have been able to do, Because for the other teams, for Ohio State, Penn State, those sorts of teams, you only got to go to Oregon once. You got to go to Oregon, maybe California. It is every other week for Oregon and USC and UCLA that you're having to go. You are just constantly flying. So I think that what Oregon has done so far this season has actually been pretty remarkable. But Oregon or Ohio State, your Big Ten champ. I think that Texas beats Texas A&M this weekend on Saturday. I think that they win, even if Quinn Ewers is not as healthy. I think that the Texas defense has played really well. Their front is again just incredible, and they have a factory of running backs. And the running back being out for Texas A&M, I think, is going to be a big deal. But Texas is a team that people are kind of looking at and saying, well, you haven't really played up to your potential. Texas has the most wins over bowl-eligible teams this season. They have 7 wins over bowl-eligible teams. That's the most in college football. They have a pretty good strength of schedule and a strength of record. Ohio State, Penn State is probably going to be in with one loss, and again, that was at home against Ohio State. Whoever wins the ACC, whether that's SMU or Miami, gets in. If Miami wins, there's a potential, I think, that SMU still gets in somehow. I would put SMU in over Notre Dame. If they lose in the ACC championship game, I would put them in over Notre Dame. Again, Notre Dame has the 78th strength of schedule. Now, SMU has the 77th, so it's not much different, but a one-loss SMU team, and that one loss being in the conference championship, I would put them in over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to have to find a conference. They're going to have to join the Big Ten. I don't think that them being independent is going to work anymore. Boise State, whoever's the Big 12 champion, whether that's BYU, I know that Colorado has kind of fallen after they lost to Kansas. They don't control their destiny necessarily with the Big 12. So there's a lot of scenarios. But I do think that this year the Big Ten is really strong with Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. I think those are really good teams. I think Indiana, obviously, their record shows that they are a good team, and that's what I care about. I care about the actual games. I do not care about any hypotheticals anymore. I'm tired of doing the hypotheticals. 10-1, Indiana, one loss on the road to the number 2 team in the country. You're in. SMU or Miami, the ACC champion, and then, of course, the SEC champion. And I think if it's a Texas-Georgia and Texas loses to Georgia, I think that even at 10-2 or whatever that record is, I think it would be 10-2, I still think that Texas gets in as the SEC runner-up. I still think Georgia gets in. If you get to the SEC championship game, I think you are in the national championship playoff. So there's a lot to still be determined in this college football. I think that there could be potentially Tennessee could get in as well. A lot to get to. Obviously, this week's going to be huge. Last week, you had 7 of the top 25 teams lose, so chaos all over the board. This weekend, I think, could add some more fireworks to that before you get into the college football playoff. So we're getting right up to this in college football. And I said this on Twitter, and you can follow me at Logan B. Ward on Twitter. I said this week. This is the best college football season that I can remember. It has been wildly entertaining. I think the expansion of the 12-team playoff has expedited the sport's growth. I think that college football is going to continue to grow from here. It allows more people at the table. And you can say that an Indiana doesn't belong, but with the transfer portal, with NIL, and with an expanded playoff, more students and more athletes are going to different schools. You're not just hoarding the talent at Georgia and Alabama. There are teams all over the country that have a ton of stud players. And I think that this is good for college football. The parity has been everywhere. The SEC has really kind of eaten itself. Penn State, Ohio State was a good game. Penn State, Oregon was a good game. Georgia and Texas was a decent game in the second half until they kind of blew the doors off of it. I think that you have more teams. Indiana's fan base is still in it. They're still engaged. Miami, still engaged. SMU, still engaged. Notre Dame. You have 15 teams that feel like they could still be a part of this college football playoff, 16, 20 teams. I mean, this is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets. And now that the automatic bid is to whoever wins the conference, I think that in itself makes for more teams be interested and more teams actually have a shot. You can go 0-4 in pre-conference, but if you win the conference, automatic bid. And I think that's pretty big. So I think that college football is in a great spot right now. I have not enjoyed a college football season more than I have enjoyed this season. And that's because we're not as regional. There are teams all over the country, Ohio State, Penn State, Texas, Miami, all over the country. Teams and fan bases are still engaged and still involved in this playoff here with a week of the regular season to go. I think this season has been phenomenal. All right, let's get into the NFL. I have a couple of topics that I want to talk about. First of all, I saw this, the Daniel Jones situation with the New York Giants. The New York Giants are a terrible organization. And they let Saquon go to the Eagles, and that was a huge mistake. He has been just destroying the league this season, and I think Saquon could have an argument for MVP this season. And then this whole Daniel Jones situation. Players were upset that they cut him or that they benched him. They know that this necessarily wasn't on Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not a Daniel Jones apologist. I don't think that he's a great quarterback, but I think that Daniel Jones is a decent quarterback. He has the athleticism. Obviously, I don't know if he can see the field as well as you would like. Make some bonehead decisions, but he's definitely an athlete. And I think that he is, I don't know if he's one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the league, but he's definitely probably top 40. And so benching Daniel Jones didn't do anything for your team. And the fact that you went and spent $5 million on Drew Lock in the offseason and he has been the backup quarterback all year, and you're going to put in Tommy DeVito, which I don't think was a head coaching call. I don't think that was a Brian Dable or a Joe Sheen call. That was a ownership call. That's what it was. I mean, I can't imagine that Brian Dable said, you know what, Tommy DeVito is the best quarterback we have in the room now. Drew Lock has won plenty of games in this league. You paid him $5 million. He is a capable backup quarterback. And I was surprised that they cut him. I was surprised that they cut Daniel Jones. But then John Mara comes out and says, Daniel asked for us to release him. He did, and he's going to clear waivers. Now, there are potentially, I think they said 4 teams for Daniel Jones. A lot of teams have inquired about Daniel Jones. There are 4 teams that say they're in on him and that if he wants to sign, he can. He's going to sign for the league minimum. So any of these 4 teams, I think it's Daniel Jones to decide. And this is, again, this is from Nick Wright. I was listening to him and he had kind of gotten this. The Vikings, 49ers, Dolphins, and Ravens. Those are the 4 teams that Daniel Jones is kind of mulling over right now and trying to figure out if which team he wants to go to. And so I think that there is 2 clear winners in this one, a clear choice for Daniel Jones. I think that the Vikings, even though Sam Darnold is banged up a little bit, I think that if you go to the Vikings, obviously you're not going to re-sign with the Vikings because they have put in the money. They're putting in the effort and the resources into J.J. McCarthy. So I don't think that that is the best fit for Daniel Jones. The 49ers. The 49ers are an interesting one because what are they going to do with Brock Purdy? He's hurt, didn't play this week against Green Bay, has a shoulder injury that apparently just kind of popped up. Had multiple MRIs on this surgery. So what's going on with Brock Purdy's shoulder. Is he going to play this week? So I think that's a potentially one for Daniel Jones to go to. I think that he could probably be starting in about 2 weeks if Brock Purdy were to not be able to play. Now, that's Brock Purdy's job. That's his gig. The 49ers are not going to let him walk. They're not going to let Brock Purdy go. I don't think that they're going to give him the $50 million or $60 million that the market is kind of giving to quarterbacks right now. I don't think that he's going to get that, but I do think that he's going to get paid by the 49ers, just not that much. So you would obviously be the perennial backup there. The Ravens, I don't get the Ravens. I know that Daniel Jones, like I said, I think is actually more athletic than what people give him credit for. I mean, he had that one run. It was on prime time where he kind of tripped over his feet, and it was kind of a meme. But he has some moves. He can move a little bit, and so I get that. I just don't like Lamar Jackson has been kind of an Iron Man for that Ravens team. He's missed a couple of games here and there. Tyler Huntley's had to come in, but I don't know if you're going to get the most out of it. You don't have an offensive head coach. Harbaugh is he was a special teams coordinator, but he is not the offensive mind that Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan, and Mike McDaniel are. So I think that I would say the Ravens are out. And then the Dolphins. The Dolphins, I think you should highly consider. You know that at some point you are going to have to come in for Tua. And I think that with the weapons that they have, Mike McDaniel comes from that same Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree. They like to establish the run the football, get the ball out to your playmakers. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think that Devon Achane, when he's healthy, is one of the best backs in the league. Definitely one of the quickest backs in the league. I think that I would, if I was Daniel Jones, highly consider the Dolphins. And with the Dolphins, you know that you're going to be playing the Jets 2 times a year. You're going to be playing the Patriots 2 times a year. You're going to get playing time with Tua. Tua is a point guard of a quarterback, very much just find the open man, quick release, get the ball out of your hands, don't hold it too long. I think that could work for Daniel Jones. So my rankings for this, I would say Dolphins number 1, 49ers 2, Vikings 3, Ravens last. If I was Daniel Jones. Obviously, I am not. But that's what I would do if I was Daniel Jones. All right, moving on. Last topic here today before get into a little personal stuff. The Cowboys. All right. A lot of people are talking about Deion Sanders to the Cowboys. And this is going to be kind of a 2-part take here. A lot of people are talking about Deion to the Cowboys and Shedeur to the Cowboys. Number 1, Shedeur Sanders is not coming to Dallas. That's not happening. You just gave the richest contract in NFL history to Dak Prescott. You are not going to move off of him right now. You can't have a rookie deal. That defeats the purpose of having a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. If you are paying your starting quarterback or your backup quarterback top of the market money, it defeats the whole purpose of having a rookie deal. The whole point of having a quarterback on a rookie deal is so that you can spend money at linebacker, at wide receiver, on your O-line, build the team around him because you're not paying the quarterback. That is the 49ers model with Brock Purdy. That was the Chiefs before they had to give the bag to Patrick Mahomes. They did that. This has been the model. Okay, multiple teams have done that. The Packers were trying to do that with Jordan Love last year. I mean, this is the model. So that's kind of defeats the purpose of having Shedeur Sanders. What I am interested in, though, is because there's been a lot of talk about Deion to the NFL. And I'm going to be honest with you. When he says, I don't know, because I feel like I have a calling here, I think that he is genuinely honest. and genuinely sincere in that take. I don't think that he's being facetious. I don't think that he is trying to blow smoke. I think that that is a legitimate thing for Deion Sanders. Deion, I think, thinks that his purpose in life, and this is what he has said, is that his purpose in life is to mold young men into grown men, to help them, to be a mentor. You cannot do that at the NFL level. Of course, coaches mean a lot at the NFL level, but it is not the same. When you are in college and you are trying to navigate relationships in school, in football, and trying to become an adult, trying to figure out how to manage money, how to do all those things, it is not the same in the NFL. And for a team like Colorado, for a team like Jackson State, which is where Deion was before, most of those guys aren't going to the NFL. Most of those guys are playing football for the love of the game. They are playing football because it has provided them an education. And I truly believe that that is what Deion feels his calling is. Now, do I think that he's going to be at Colorado for the next 10 years? No. I think that he will bounce around. But I do not think that Deion fits the NFL. Deion is not a tactician. He is not a scheme guy. He's not the one who is calling the plays on offense or defense. He is the CEO type head coach. And that works in college. It works maybe somewhat in the NFL. John Harbaugh is probably the best one, where he's not necessarily an offense or a defensive guy. He's not doing the play calling. He's a CEO. But at the college level, that works. You don't have to call plays. You just have to hire the right people to do so. You're not dealing with 25, 30-year-old men who have families of their own, and this is a job. You clock in, you come to work, you clock out, you leave. That's not what college football is. College football is camaraderie, team bonding experiences all the time. It's students living together at the dorm rooms. You are the CEO of that. You are trying to mold young men into grown men. And so I don't think that Deion's going to be coming to the NFL at all. I don't think it fits him as a person. I think the college game fits him perfectly. Not to mention the recruiting. I mean, that is what college football is the recruiting, and Deion Sanders is a good recruiter. He can walk into any room, and he is going to be the center of attention. He can recruit folks. He can recruit people. It's not the same in the NFL. In the NFL, you have a GM that's doing all that. And I think that Deion likes that. You know, Deion likes to be the center of attention. Deion likes the fact that as at Colorado, he is the CEO, and in Boulder, he is the most important man in town. I think that is important to him. And I think that he fits perfectly in college. And so I don't think there's any way Deion is going to be going to the NFL. He might leverage it into higher pay and higher compensation, but I don't think he's going to the NFL. I think he might go to a Florida State. He might do a bigger job than Colorado, but I don't think that he's going to the NFL. I think he has full autonomy at Colorado and can do whatever he wants. And I think that Deion probably likes that. When you're in the NFL, you have an owner that you have to talk to and deal with, especially with the Cowboys. Even though you might have a great relationship with Jerry Jones, you're going to get annoyed with him. So I don't think that Deion's going to the NFL at all. All right, last thing. Okay, let's talk Cowboys here. I'm a Cowboys fan. If you know me, you know that. If you don't know me, I am unfortunately, as I always say, unfortunately a Cowboys fan. I've never seen them in an NFC title game. It's been misery my entire life. But I do feel like I am a pretty even keel fan. I don't go to the extremes. All right. Last year, I did feel good about our team. I thought there was a potential that we could get to an NFC title game. We had an opportunity as a 2 seed and then fumbled the bag against Green Bay. But I do want to talk about Mike McCarthy and his tenure with the Cowboys, because I don't necessarily think that Mike McCarthy is a great coach. I don't think that he's a great coach. But what I don't understand and what I don't agree with is people who flat out say he is a bad coach. I don't think that is the case. I don't think that it is the case that you can win 61% of your games as an NFL head coach and be bad. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's the case that you can have the amount of seasons that he had in Green Bay and be bad. I know that he had 13 years in Green Bay. He went to and won the one Super Bowl with Aaron. He had only a couple of losing seasons. And you can say, well, you had Aaron Rodgers and you only got to one Super Bowl. Have we seen Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets? Have we seen Aaron Rodgers with Matt LaFleur, who's a good coach? What most people would say, Matt LaFleur is actually a great coach. You see what Matt LaFleur had to deal with Aaron Rodgers? Maybe it wasn't so easy. Maybe the fact that he was able to deal with and be around Aaron Rodgers for that long should be a credit to Mike McCarthy. But Mike McCarthy has won 61% of his games in the NFL. With the Cowboys, in his first year, he went 6-10. Injury-laden season, the 2020 season. He then had 3 consecutive 12-win seasons. And I know that the playoffs have been a disaster. They have been a disaster for every Cowboys coach since Jimmy Johnson. It's just the way that it is with this franchise right now. And it has been for nearly 30 years. Mike McCarthy's winning percentage is better than Sean McVay, Tom Landry, Pete Carroll, Bill Parcells. He's better win percentage than Jimmy Johnson and Bill Walsh. Those are just a couple of the names that he has a better winning percentage than as a head coach. Again, I am not saying that he is a great head coach. I'm not saying that the Cowboys should keep him. But what I am saying is that people that just say that Mike McCarthy is a terrible head coach, we had 3 consecutive 12-win seasons. And today, Jerry Jones talking about, well, everything is on the table when it comes to coaching. We could potentially sign an extension for Mike McCarthy. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that ship has already sailed. However, when you look at the 2 seasons that he has had in Dallas where they've had injuries, where Dak Prescott got hurt, Micah Parsons missed a lot of this season. Defensively, they hadn't been good, but they've dealt with a lot of injuries. DeMarcus Lawrence didn't play. Trevon Diggs got hurt. Deron Bland got hurt on the defensive side of the ball. They're 4-7 right now. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that Jerry Jones is saying this after the win against Washington. In the win against Washington, I think the Cowboys showed a lot of fight. And I think that when a coach loses a locker room, you don't see that. I think that a couple of years ago, Josh McDaniels with the Raiders, they had quit on him. That team did not look good. And they said, you know what, we're not playing. We're not going to hustle. They had quit and he had to go. I don't think that this Cowboys team has quit on Mike McCarthy. I don't like his clock management late in games. I think that sometimes he gets away from the run too quickly, even though the Cowboys have no run game this year. Again, that's a GM thing. That's not necessarily a Mike McCarthy thing. But I think that when you look at Mike McCarthy and everyone says that he's a terrible coach, he has a 61% winning percentage in the NFL. That is hard to do. Everyone that talks about Sean McVay, he has a higher winning percentage than Sean McVay and Bill Walsh. He has a higher win percentage than Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson. So Running off coaches has not been a Cowboys thing. For all of Jerry's flaws when it comes to personnel, he's actually been really patient with coaches, maybe too patient with Jason Garrett. But we're in year what? Year 5, year 6? We're in year 5 for him in Dallas. First year they went 6-10, couple of injuries, and this year they're 4-7. Could possibly, I mean, look, we're looking at Thursday night or Thursday Thanksgiving. I mean, who are you picking in that game? You picking the Giants or you picking the Cowboys? I'm taking the Cowboys. So you're looking at 5-7. And I know a lot of people are like, well, this is just hurting your draft stock. You're not going to take a running back with a top 5 pick. You're not going to take Genty with the top 5 pick. You're not. You might take him with the 15th pick, but don't take him with the top 5. At this point, players are playing for Mike McCarthy. They have not quit on him. They have not quit on this team. And I think that shows that Mike McCarthy, whatever he does something well. He does something well. Man. That year that they went to the Super Bowl, I'm just looking at these stats here. That the Packers went to the Super Bowl in 2010. They went 10-6. They were the wild card team. Won the Super Bowl. That next year, they went 15-1 on the year. They lost the first round of the playoffs. They lost that divisional round game, but 15-1 in 2011. That's crazy. But he's had 12 win seasons 3 years in a row for the Cowboys. That's not something that happens often with Dallas. Trust me. I'm going to see when the last time the Cowboys had 12 consecutive win seasons or had three consecutive win seasons, 12 win seasons. Let's see. Yeah, it was the 93, 94, 95. Height of the dynasty. They had 4 consecutive 12 or more win seasons. 91, they were 11-5. 92, they were 13-3. 93, they were 12-4. 94, 12-4. 95, 12-4. So that run with Jimmy Johnson there, that's it. Then you had it in the 70s. But since Jimmy Johnson, since the 90s, you haven't had that. You've had a 13-win season. Dak's first year, they went 13-3. The next season, 9-7. Then 10-6. And then 8-8. It was the Jason Garrett 8-8 show for a couple years. 2007, they were in 13-3. 2011, they went 2009, they went 11-5. And then had 4 straight years of losing, not having double-digit wins. So you can run Mike McCarthy off. And I think they will. And I'm not necessarily upset with that. What I am just cautioning Cowboys fans is that Mike McCarthy is a pretty decent coach. He wins a lot of games. 61% of them, to be exact. All right. Hey, I just want to touch quickly on kind of what some personal stuff here. Obviously, this is kind of the new iteration of the Logan Ward podcast. I'm going to try to have one episode out a week on Wednesdays. Those new episodes are going to come out. Sports is kind of hard sometimes when you're doing a podcast like this because things happen so much. I've done a couple of different things trying to create sports content. I had done some videos and it had done really well. Those videos had done really well, but there were on more than one occasion. It actually takes a long time to do those things. And on more than one occasion, I had spent about 4 days working on something, writing a script, filming, editing, doing those things. And then I was talking about maybe Bill Belichick to a Cowboys or something like that. I was talking about something that could potentially happen, and then something developed in that story, and I just wasn't able to publish it. So that it takes a lot of work. And so this is going to be a little bit more free-flowing. This is a podcast that hopefully will... my goal is to just continue to do this. For some of you that care, that are watching this, which I know at this point, episode 1 is probably mostly friends and family. If you don't know, obviously I am back teaching. Went to Nashville, didn't work out. Back teaching this year, and so that's been taking obviously a lot of my time in the fall. But this is something that I want to continue to do, and even if there's only 4 people that watch this every week, I want to do a good show for you 4 people. And that's kind of my mindset right now. Everyone talks about, well, everyone has a podcast. Everyone has a podcast for about 6 weeks. And then they stop because it's not going the way that they want it to go. And I've been a part of that. I did, 50 episodes of a podcast, and it just hadn't really taken off. And I felt like I was doing a lot of work, and I was having kids at the time. There was a lot going on. And so I stopped. And I don't want to stop this time. And I've seen there are plenty of stories. Everyone who has ever been successful in their life has had moments like this where they've had something that they just have to continue to do. And that's what I'm going to do. I don't know what this is going to become, but this is going to be me to give out my sports opinions and sports thoughts, and we'll see what happens from there. But with all that being said, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on whatever audio platform you are listening on, it's Apple, Spotify, whatever you listen to your podcast. If you're listening to it, be sure to give a rate, review, subscribe. Same thing on the YouTube channel if you are watching. So we'll be back next week. We got a ton of games this weekend. I'm taking Texas over Texas A&M. I'll take the Cowboys over the Giants on Thanksgiving Day. Give me the Chiefs and the points. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Raiders pretty handily. I know that they're going to probably beat them by 4. I think the line's like 3, 2.5, 3 points, 3.5. So a lot of good football coming up this week. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who is listening to this. Enjoy some good food. Enjoy some good football. This is what the time of the year is. It's starting to get a little colder outside. I'm wearing a sweater today because it felt like fall. Thanksgiving, food, football, family. That's what we are all about over here at the Logan Ward Show. We'll see you next time, next Wednesday. Catch you later.